And thank you for joining us here on PM Express. It's a big conversation that has taken this whole country by storm. There's so many cases that, of course, we are referencing tonight. But, of course, the one that sent the shockwaves across the country happened just yesterday. And it has left this country in a state of ponder. Because you're asking a lot of questions, really. There is a state of insecurity, at least many believe that. So we are asking, why the surge? But this in itself is one that some within the security services contest. They say state of insecurity, really, where is that? Because of a few incidents? Well, we're going to be trying to juggle between what the data, the statistics says, and what you feel is happening shortly. We'll break it all down for you. Walk with me. Let's go through this. What do we know? This is what really started this whole conversation, but this is not the only thing that has led us to this conversation. But let's talk about it. We know a police officer was shot yesterday in the head. Broad daylight robbery. Bold, daring bandits armed with sophisticated guns accosted a bullion van that was escorting and transporting cash. But it is the neighborhood in which they chose to do this that has left many shocked. This is the Adedimpo neighborhood, which, if you know this place I grew up in and played. It is an area, it's a no-go zone for thieves and armed robbers. Because when you're caught in that part of town, you will be lynched, killed, and your body disposed of. They have a reputation for that. And that area is really a very boisterous, noisy trading hub. And yet, these armed robbers on motorbikes managed to stop the vehicle and under a hail of bullets, killed the police officer, shot the driver, and made away with money. That bullion van itself is in question. Is it really a bullion van? Can you call it so? And the road itself is terrible, potholes riddled, and yet they managed to escape. Daring, bold. This is not the sort of crime we are used to in Ghana, but we are beginning to see a bit of this here. We'll go to the rest of it for you shortly. But not only the police officer who died, a 40-year-old mother of three was also shot, completely not involved, was in a hideout in her cubicle, wooden cubicle, and the stray bullet, appeared to have shot and killed her, right? But we've been tracking the cases. This, of course, has risen this matter to public status on the front pages, but this is not the first time we've had a bullion van attack this year. In January, armed robbers shot dead a young policeman who was escorting another bullion van, bolted with monies in the bullion van. And so I'm just telling you this just to put it in context, that what you saw yesterday wasn't the first time this has happened. It's happened before this year. This is in January. Again, in same January, armed men besieged the church in Oyibi. They shot at the head pastor and then they stabbed the worshipper. Let's track February. In February, armed robbers attacked and snatched, Asokori Mampon MCE. And the interesting point about this is the MCE is the chief, the head of the Municipal Security Council. Right? And yet, he was a victim of this attack. They snatched his vehicle at gunpoint. The robbers are just indiscriminate. They don't care who you are, your status in society. They will come at you. Very bold and daring. This is the chairman of the Security Council in his district. Let's come to March. In March, a bullion van again was attacked at Barcelona Spinters. A very, very busy stretch. Right? In another daylight operation by some unknown armed men. And so again, I'm just showing you, this isn't the first it's happened. This year alone, we've had two. In Kumasi, several of them, right? Let's stay with March, because the driver of the van escaped while the police officer was disarmed and assaulted with a mallet. So we've seen this trend evolve. Let's come to April, right? Robbers shot and then killed a couple returning from the banking Insecurity in Takrade. And so we're beginning to see this play out not only in Accra, but elsewhere across the country. Let's come to May, right? We saw a census trainer was shot dead in Cape Coast, right? And then we come to the head teacher who was also killed in Atebu Kwame Danso Highway, right, in a suspected robbery attack in the Bono East. This is May. Let's come to June, this very month. We talk about the Gimpa Fiesta Royal Road robbery. It's become one of those stays now when it comes to robbery attacks. Several of them happening in a space of a few days. We have the Forest Bureau, and this is for me is a tip of the iceberg, but also the one that raises bigger questions, right? About the police itself and its ability to get to the bottom of this and deal with it in a speedy manner. Because this particular attack at the Forest Bureau happened right under the noses of at the police headquarters. If you know where this happened, this raid happened literally meters away from the police headquarters. Meters. You just simply have to walk a few steps. You cross the road and you get to this Forest Bureau. And yet, the robbers managed to enter the Forest Bureau. They shot somebody. They made away. And we still don't know what has happened yet to it. What was the response time of the police? The key question that you're still asking. We're yet to get clarity on that. But because of the proximity, raises questions. Armed robbers fired at the victim at a pig farm and made away with his backpack, again, very recently, right? So we've seen a lot already on this. But there have been promises in the past by government officials as to dealing with the problem. In a wake of the slaying of another police officer 2 years ago, 2 police officers were shot in Kaswa. We had the vice president made a very bold promise, and to be fair to him, he wasn't the only person who made a promise. The interior minister, who has been retained, Ambrose Derry, went to visit the family of the police officer and then boldly declared that henceforth, no police officer on duty will go without bulletproof vests and proper protection with a helmet, right? And that all of them will be armed with proper functioning weapons. Right, 2 years, less than 2 years down the line, we are back having the same conversation. And as we've heard already, the officer who was shot yesterday was in the seat, was in the guard duty, was not wearing any protection whatsoever. The bulletproof vest that was promised by the vice president and the interior minister is still nowhere to be found. Questions that, of course, they must answer, and he is the head of this council when it comes to the police. And so a lot of questions that must definitely be answered. Where are the bulletproof vests? Where's the helmet? Where are the weapons that was promised? But the president himself, we've been looking to find what the actual statistics say about crime in Ghana. We struggle because the police themselves haven't published it. But 2 weeks ago, thankfully, the president was in Cape Coast where he was given an honorary doctorate degree, and he gave a speech in which he updated us on the crime statistics for the first quarter of this year. And he says there is no insecurity in Ghana per the statistics, right? He says, well, media reports create this impression. Of course, when it happens, we report, and you may get a sense that, oh, this is something that is engulfing the country. But what exactly did the statistics say? According to the president, this is the statistic that he is working with, right? And he was comparing the first quarter of 2021 to the first quarter of 2020. In 2020, and this is just for robbery cases, right? In the first quarter of 2020, according to the president, we had 520 robbery attacks. Same period this year, we have 491 robbery attacks. That is just what the evidence suggests or says. And so facts, they say, are sacred. And so that's it. So first quarter, of course, we just entered the second quarter. And so we may not know what the latest statistics suggest. But if you're looking, we are working with the first quarter, latest statistics on it, on a downward decline. I mean, and the president goes ahead to talk about all the fantastic things that he's done for the police service. We'll talk about that. Really, hasn't the government done enough? And what we are seeing are just isolated and in few cases here and there that doesn't add up to an insecurity situation nationwide. We'll get into those details when we sit to have this conversation about why we're seeing the surge in the last few weeks. I have guests who know their stuff joining me from all across the country tonight. Stay with me after this break. A lot to talk about. My guest tonight joining us via Zoom is Professor Kwesi Ening, is the Director of the Faculty of Academic Affairs and Research at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. Also joining us is Dr. Jones Opoku-Ware. He is a criminologist and a crime researcher and also joins us via Zoom. Also joining us in the studio is Adam Bonal. He's the CEO of the Security Warehouse Limited and an analyst himself. And I'm also happy that we are joined by a police officer herself until very recently, Ophelia Mensah-Hayford. She is the vice chairperson of the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament. And I'm grateful that all of you can join us tonight for this all-important conversation. I want to start by looking at the incident that had led us to this point. Although, as I've illustrated, it's not the first, but it's a first of many in the last few weeks. I want to start with you, Professor Ening, if you don't mind, because I wonder, we currently, the IGP today has announced that he's invoking the full force of the police, and he's very categorical that we will get them, which is what he was very emphatic about. Dr. Jones Opoku-Ware, let me throw that question to you. When you listen to the IGP make that assurance, and his words were, we will definitely get them, and we are throwing everything at this. As a criminologist, having watched how this unfolded, what's your reaction to this? Kindly unmute for me, please, Dr. Opoku-Ware. Please unmute.
Please, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Please, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. Okay. So, yes, as I said, I watched whatever happened in a lot of sadness, and I have to express my condolences to the families of the disease. I mean, listening to the IGP, he sounded more reassuring. But to be very honest with you, looking at the patterns of murders that I've observed over the years in the country, and the fact that we still have not been able to solve many of those murder cases, to be very honest with you, if I should tell you that I'm very optimistic that we will be able to deal with this and to be able to bring justice to the victims and the family, and also to bring the perpetrators to book. To be very honest with you, I really doubt that, because from the track record and the patterns that I've observed, based on the murders that we have in the country and the way we have approached them, it doesn't seem to communicate and send any good signal to me as a criminologist that we will be able to deal with this issue to the end and bring justice to the families of the victim and also to the victim himself.
Adam, let me come to you. So one of the key elements we've seen, the police say there's a manhunt for these people. They've asked the public for help. As of now, it's been what? More than 24 hours since this incident happened. Nobody knows how these people look like. Now, our reporter who was there talking to eyewitnesses say the armed bandits who came on motorbikes, several of them they were not masking their face. Some of them had masks on, but others did not. In fact, especially they said those who were wielding the guns and firing were unmasked, which means that we saw their faces. We have countless number of CCTV mounted right now in Accra, almost around every corner right now. Surprised that we still don't have that out there in terms of just show us what they look like, how they were dressed, in what direction they went, so the public can join in a hunt for them.
Yes, thank you very much, Evans, and good evening to my co-panelists and viewers. Well, condolences to the bereaved family, and I believe police officers in this country. Most of them, or all of them really, most of them are down. I mean, don't feel happy with what has happened. But I am not surprised. Prior to this, the signals were written on the wall. When that daring robbery in front of IGP, his office, took place, I did ask, you called me, I think we spoke about this. And my questions were that what is going on that we are not aware of, because we have CCTV cameras littered in almost every junction, every corner in this country. If these cameras are probably...
Even more so in Greater Accra.
In Greater Accra, yeah, in Greater Accra. So if these cameras are, you know, probably not within the domain of, if they are not monitoring them within the domain of probably the headquarters or the police doesn't have that jurisdiction, I believe that they can coordinate with the national security or whoever has, you know, these recordings for us to see. But as we speak, the IGP has gone to promise. But prior to this, and I don't want us to make it look like this should be an issue of a slain police officer. That actually makes it worse. Prior to this, citizens of this country have died in their numbers in very gory manner. Yesterday, just this, when this was happening, in Kumasi, in Dichemso, a gentleman had the wife shot in front of him and killed.
Yeah.
We are not talking about that. We have had robbery incidents in Paga, we've had them in Kumasi, we've had them all over the country. Mine is that so long as we don't have intelligence on who these people are, Evans, we are fighting a losing battle. And for the first time in the history of the Ghana police, I have been asking, maybe you can ask the IGP, he's my friend, but we haven't, do we have a wanted people's list? Okay, if you ask Peter Namfuri, he's still alive. We haven't, from Peter Namfuri to Apietu, all of them are still alive. If you ask any of them, they will tell you in their time who the crime campaigns were, and they were looking for them. As we speak today, ask the IGP and his people, do we have the likes of the Combian, Atayi, and all these people? Because this looks more like an organized crime. And for your information, yesterday, I am told that when the homicide unit got there, they collected 20 spent AK-47 shells.
20?
20.
Wow.
Not less than 20 spent AK-47 shells were found at that scene alone. If you understand what I'm saying, it means that this looks more like an organized crime. You don't fight organized crime with buttons and all, you know, giving, you know, flowery speeches. Let's see more action. And let's not just limit it to find the perpetrators of these guys who killed the police officer. Could it be a gang that is probably going around and terrorizing and, you know, doing all this? So as far as I'm concerned, maybe the CCTV would have helped if it's other jurisdiction. I'm sure within, you know, minutes, less than 30 minutes, it will be everywhere. We are looking for so and so and so and so, and you can believe our media and, you know, social media would throw it everywhere and probably would have arrested them. So that is that, Evan.
Let me bring in the Ophelia Mensah Hayford, who's the Vice Chair of the Defense and Interior Committee. Ophelia, I want to talk to you first as an officer. I mean, once an officer, always an officer, they say. You were in the service until very recently. A colleague of yours was just slain yesterday. Today, you've had the IGP in the service. Talk to us with your expertise. What should have happened by now in the 24 hours since this has happened in terms of the speed with which investigation should have happened and courting public support? Is this what you expect?
Thank you very much, Bernard.
So this is Evans. Hello, Ophelia. Okay, I want to bring in. I think we've lost her briefly with the Zoom connection. But I want to bring in Dr. Jones Owari, Jones Opoku-Wari. Jones, tell me this. I mean, for you, from the criminological point of view, right? From the moment the crime happened, what should have happened? What steps should have kicked in immediately? Also with you know, the desire to bring in the public, because this was a very populated area, right? If you put those factors in play, in terms of trying to solve the crime in 24 hours, making progress, what do you expect?
So, to be very honest with you, once the crime happened and looking at where the crime event took place, I mean, in terms of collecting, evidence. I should say many of those evidences would have been contaminated with the presence of people there. I heard my colleague, Mr. Bonan, talking about the fact that a lot of spent cartridges were found. Probably we could trace the numbers of those cartridges and then be able to trace where they were basically obtained from. That is something the police can do. But there is something that is happening in relation to where these crimes are happening of late. In fact, if you look at the patterns as we have them now, you could see an evolution of crimes, especially robberies in the country. Initially, most of these robberies used to happen within homes, but now they are happening on the streets. So now the question we have to ask is, why are the criminals preferring to carry out their activities on the streets as opposed to the homes where it used to be? And now the answer is very simple. One, the streets is a place which makes people very vulnerable. And now if you look at the way our communities are structured, there are a lot of obstacles within our streets. In fact, a lot of traffic, people moving in and out. So once they are able to move their operations within areas where people are very vulnerable, especially people in cars, are very vulnerable in terms of reaction and the response rate. So if you check many of these crimes as they have happened, especially those that have been happening in recent time on the street, the robbers have almost achieved about 100% success rate in terms of their operation, because they are able to obtain and to be able to do whatever they want to do and get away without anybody being able to stop them. So in terms of the choice of locations and where these things are happening now, and now the police must become more aware that as opposed to the olden days where these criminals would prefer to attack people within their homes, now the homes used to provide some kind of obstacles for them. But now the street is giving them a lot of shield. And once it gives them a lot of shield, what it means is that they will be able to carry out the activity without anybody stopping them. So for me, this is what the police should be looking at. And this is how the analysis of the patterns of the crime as we have them now should be. And that is why we have what is happening. Based on the fact that they are happening on the streets, the fact that when it happens, a lot of people come around, and come and surround the crime scene. Trust me, a lot of the evidences are contaminated. And for me, in terms of evidence and data collection, and also for tracing the events, it makes it very difficult for the police to be able to carry out any meaningful criminal analysis on the scene.
In respect of what you've said then, how much value will you place on the presence of the CCTV then in solving this evolving crime?
Okay, well, CCTVs are good. In fact, we call them in criminology big ballast. Okay, but you see, CCTVs do not necessarily prevent the commission of crimes. What CCTVs do is that while the crimes have been committed and they are captured by them, especially where we have these CCTVs being able to take certain images, we can be able to use it to trace those people. So we can actually trace the chain of events, and probably will be able to lead us to who, where, and who committed those crimes. So in terms of the presence of the CCTVs, while they are good, trust me, they may not necessarily prevent the commission of crimes. They can only assist the police. That is why I want to agree with Adam Bona that once the event has happened, the necessary thing the police should have done is by now checking on all those CCTVs within the area and trying to piece together the evidence to see the movement of the people. Okay, the car they came with, the motorbikes they came with, and if there are those who were not masked up, then we could be able to pick up the images of those people and then begin to do the tracing and the chain of events. Is
it necessary in solving a crime like this to share that footage once the police have it with the public?
Yes, it's for me, it is very important because these cameras, they are within the public domain. Okay, and now once the cameras, the images are released, it helps the public to be able to provide the information that the police would need. And I give certain lists to the police and also to the public. Okay, so for me, it is not good. It doesn't speak well of the police that as of now, these images have not even been produced to the public, for the public to access. Because you see, the public are stakeholders in crime management and also in crime control. Because it is the public that gets a lot of information. They give leads. So if these CCTVs are there and we can actually procure them, Why is it that the police are not releasing them for the public to be able to make input on them and to help them to lead to those guys who did that? So for me, it is very important. The police should be able to release these footages by now.
Let me bring back Madam Hayford. We lost you here briefly. Madam Hayford, I was asking you as a police officer yourself until very recently when you became a member of parliament. 24 hours after this daring incident, what is your expectation of your former colleagues in chasing down these armed bandits?
Thank you very much, Bernard. My greetings to your viewers and my condolence to the family as well as the police administration. All that I would say is as soon as it happened, I know the IGP ordered investigation.
I think we lost her again on the line. Let's try and fix the line because I need to hear her on this. Madam Hayford. Okay.
And as you know, Bernard, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Madam Hayford.
As I was saying, I said as soon as the incident happened, the IGP ordered ordered that investigations be conducted into the incident. And then, investigations cannot be rushed. It's unfortunate sometimes it dies. But we have commenced investigations into the incident. And I believe in the police administration. And I know they are going to conduct an in-depth investigation into this issue, get the perpetrators arrested, and bring them to book.
Let's talk about the state in which this officer was caught by the armed robbers. And I've heard you today talk about the lack of protection this officer had. And he's not the only victim this year. Several other police officers had died in the line of duty. They didn't have what you call a bulletproof vest. They were not wearing helmets. Sometimes even the quality and the functionality of the guns they were holding themselves is called into question. You've had reason to talk about that. Why was that important for you in highlighting it now in your position as deputy chair of the committee?
Thank you. Before this incident, we were told that the IGP met with the operations, and then he brought up a guideline that they should purchase a bulletproof van or armored vehicles. And then I was saying if they had adhered to it and then purchased such vehicles, we wouldn't have lost a state apparatus like the police officer we lost yesterday. The reason being that these bulletproof cars would have been secured enough. It wouldn't have just gone off with one bullet hitting the policeman without him defending himself. He was fully armed, but because it was an ordinary pickup, and then just one bullet, he was caught unawares, and then he lost his life without being able to defend himself and the people around him.
Yeah, I mean, but that point you raise is critical, right? I mean, we've seen the IGP statement tonight saying we had a meeting, we agreed, and we said by June 1, provide us with armored vehicles that are bulletproof, and that if you don't, we'll withdraw our men. But that in itself is an admission that something horribly had gone wrong for so many years. The banks have, as I've seen it in the last decade or two, and because you're a police officer, you attest to this, they have never really complied with this standard rule in transportation of money. In fact, it's only the Bank of Ghana vans we see that tend to be the right bullion vans that we know of. So the police themselves have been negligent, so to speak, in putting their men in these vehicles for so many years, right? And allowing this to have gone on for so long and putting so many other police officers' lives at risk. I think he's. Do I still have Madam Hayford? I think we froze him. Yes, I think.
Yes, I'm on the line.
Yes. I mean, what do you say to that? That the police should not have allowed this to happen in the first place. But it's been happening for so long. We waited for a few police officers to die in this line of duty in a bullion van. This year, they cited 2 instances, right? The police themselves are negligent in this matter, aren't they?
Bernard,
Okay, we lost that again. But the question to you, I mean, the IGP says this shouldn't happen. He's giving them a June ending day, which is next 2 weeks. But should we have waited for this to happen? So many cases I cited, the bullion van's being attacked, police was being shot while they're in a bullion van. For this directive now to come into play?
Well, even that directive, if you ask me, I don't know how effective that directive is. To me, if you ask me, from administrative and security point of view, it looks like it's just a unilateral decision by the IGP alone.
Well, they met today with the banks
no.
and the BOG.
What I'm saying is that the IGP is not an individual. The IGP reports to a police council. He has a police management board called the PUMAP. So I want to know, this incident happened around 12. Then by 3 p.m. or so, or the same day, we received this directive. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
That by 20,
that was yesterday, yes.
You know, same day, we received a communique through the police that we are giving you by the end of this month.
But we also learned from another statement from it was a document that was leaked from the BOG that in the meeting last year.
Yeah, so my point is that what I'm deriving at the moment is that unless these banks are doing pay as you go with the police, so we carry your money, you put money on the table, we go. I mean, when I say pay as you, I'm sure you yourself and the viewers understand. But if there is an MOU or if there is an agreement that is binding, they can't even employment if you want to, lay people off. You just don't give them 2 weeks. And so my point is that argument telling them that we are giving you 2 weeks. If you ask me, I would want to see the minutes by PUMAP. If they had a meeting, I would want to see police council say, yeah, let's do it. If that is there, then I would say that IGP acted.
On the back of that, though, today when they met with the Bank of Ghana and the association, the Bank of Ghana Association agreed to the June 30th date.
But you saw the initial release from the
police,
the Bank of Ghana itself.
Yeah. That was a longer period for implementation.
Thank you. It meant that there was some disagreement, right?
Yeah.
But now probably this is what should have happened before the police communicating to us, telling us that, you know what, we need to do this. And so if you ask me, I would say there is a challenge there. But the truth is that, just like you asked, there are some fundamental questions we are not asking you, the media, you are not asking. It has to do with, how do you put a probationer officer? That guy had literally just joined the police. He's just finished. He didn't even, in his badge, they didn't even do the 6 months training I know of. So someone just finishes police training school. When you do, usually, all over the world, you are attached to an experienced officer, you go through the tutelage, you can ask every experienced police officer. But these guys finished at a time when election was just due, and they were sent out. And so if you check, he's done less than a year. Ask how long it takes those who finish police recruitment, how long it takes them for them to probably, and so you would call them, he will call him a rookie. Yes, of course. So probation. I mean, multimedia would not be sending, what do you call it, inexperienced journalists to go cover, to probably go and tape the president. You will send your best, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so you are carrying money, and you send, a police officer who's supposed to be on attachment with an AK-47. His ability to respond. I mean, so as far as I'm concerned, there are several questions we are not asking. Was he adequately prepared? Was he trained enough to even deal with the situation? Did what's the name? The criminals, did they know the type of police officer in this farm pickup? I call them farm pickup. This pickup. Did they know? Maybe they didn't know, or they did. We need to know the type of officers who have actually lost their lives in line, in this pickups, carrying money. What is, what's the nature?
But with the lack of protection that he also had, which is bulletproof
it's very fundamental.
I mean, that also makes it even worse, right?
Yes.
I mean, because there's an officer, he's on guard because he was shot in the head.
If you saw the video on on the internet,
yeah,
you can see the bullet went through his skull.
Yeah.
If you wear a bulletproof helmet, obviously it meant that it would have repelled the bullet, and he would have been able to.
If you shot him in the center mass,
yes,
the bulletproof again would have taken.
And so once the criminals, knowing that maybe he's been able to fend off the bullet, the first bullet, what they do is to now try to re-strategize. Yeah. But unfortunately, the first bullet, we don't know whether we are told, the police would have to tell us whether how many times he was shot, but bystanders said 3 times. So probably the first bullet disabled him, and therefore they did what they have to do. But mine is that, yes, lack of training, lack of, body armor, and all the things. And also, look at this, the Infante MP who died. Yeah. The president was at the scene. The president did say, IGP, what can come. I'm giving you time to find them.
Yeah,
have we caught any single person who was involved?
We've not been told that.
We haven't been told. These are the things I'm talking about.
I have Madam Hayford back. Madam Hayford, I was asking you the question about, you brought up the bullion van question, which we've addressed here, but I want your thoughts on that. Because, I mean, for the police service themselves for years, I mean, definitely more than a decade, to sit and watch their men sit in bullion vans that are not fit for purpose, and only takes another death of a police officer in a bullion van to now issue a directive for June 30th. It shows that the police themselves have not been on top of this for a long, long time. That's enough. Okay, I want to take a break. When I return, I want to open up this for the bigger conversation. We'll look at what this says about the national picture, because it is key to watch what the national picture is. I told you what the statistics says according to the president, that if you compare first quarter this year to the first quarter of last year, there is a decline in robbery statistics. Okay, so what does this mean for the crime across the country, and what must change if, of course, we are to deal with this evolving nature of robberies in this country? Stay with me. So thank you very much for staying with us. You're still here on the PM Express. My guest is still Adam Bona, the CEO of the Security Warehouse Limited. Also with me is Dr. Opoku-Ware. He's a criminologist, and of course the Vice Chair of the Defense and Interior Committee. To here I go next. We've had a challenge with a line, but let's look at the big picture, Madam Hayford. So what is your committee prepared to do on what appears to be an increasing spate of crime across the country?
Evans, can you come again?
I'm asking you what the Defense and Interior Committee, what are you prepared to do? I'm sure conversations have begun on the committee level on what Parliament's own role can be in ensuring, we return to a safer environment for everybody else across the length and breadth of this country.
I think we met last week and had a lot of deliberations, and then we are coming up with a whole lot of recommendations before this incident happened yesterday. So my chairman is not around yet. We'll meet as a committee and involve all the other stakeholders, and then come up with guidelines or protocols as to how these operations are going to be carried out going forward.
Let me ask you, in 2019, I bet when you were still a police officer, a colleague of yours was shot and killed, 2 of them. And then the Vice President Ambrose Derry, the Interior Minister, promised that henceforth, from then, no police officer on duty should go on duty without a bulletproof vest and a proper protection helmet and a gun. That hasn't happened. That must trouble you.
Thank you. Evans, I was out of the country by then. Mm-hmm. I heard of those incidents. But let us not forget that the president in his State of the Nation's address made the promise of retooling the police. And so all these measures are in place for us to purchase the required gadgets and logistics for the police to operate with. I know for sure that the police administration are on the verge of procuring the bulletproof helmets and the jackets for the operations of its officers. Mm.
So you know the procurement have started for the bulletproof vest and a helmet?
I know allocations have been made to that effect, but unless I inquire from the police administration.
Okay. I mean, that definitely, it's something to work with. It's taking some time, but you know, so you're expecting that, I mean, at least shortest possible time, these bulletproof vests and helmets should be available for your former colleagues.
Sure.
Dr. Pokuwari, let's open up this conversation a bit more, because let's look at the general. You've talked about the changing crime trends and how it's evolved from attacks at home to attacks on the street. Is that the reason why there is a perception? And I use the word, if you disagree with that word, please feel free to say that there's a surge in crime. The president, as I illustrated at the beginning, gave us the statistics for the first quarter when it comes to robbery. 520 robberies first quarter of 2020, 400 plus this year. That shows an actual decline, right? What do you draw the line between the reality, right, and what people actually believe as the security situation is? And does that, I guess, influence what do we do next in fixing the problem? Okay.
All right. So, Evans, the first thing I want to say in answering your question is that I must say that any crime analysis that solely depends on police data can be quite misleading. Yes. Because always what the police statistics say normally do not reflect what's the true situation on the ground. In criminology, we call that the dark figure of crimes. Okay, so always you have a lot of disparity in terms of what the police say, in terms of their data and what people see and experience. So any crime analysis, or anybody who wants to do any crime analysis that depends solely on police statistics, can actually have misleading results of the analysis. And now that said, you can see that the patterns as we have it, just based on the police data, shows that between 2020 and 2021, there seems to be a reduction in terms of the pattern. Okay, there seems to be a reduction in terms of the pattern. But you see, what is making it more, let's say, people having that perception that is increasing is the violent nature of the crimes that we have observed so far. Okay, so once these crimes are perpetrated in such violent way, and now it creates a lot of anxiety among the populace. So people now begin to ask themselves, are we next? How are we going to survive this? So that kind of anxiety is what creates the kind of perception that we are having now. And you see, Evans, I must say that Ghana as a country has not been doing very well over the years when it comes to solving crimes, especially murders and robberies, especially murders. Because look, I'm doing a certain work where I'm looking at murder cases from 2000. And trust me, I have chronicled a number of murder cases, and as of now, almost 80% of these murders have not been solved. Okay, so once we have such a case or such cases at hand, it creates that perception that the society is not safe, the country is not safe, even though it may not be so, but because justice are not brought to the victims, because those crimes are not solved over the period, it keeps on lingering in the minds of people that we have an unsafe situation and therefore we are likely to become attacked. So that is why we have all these kind of perceptions that is moving up within the country and among the people.
Mr. Bona, there's another element in this. So on the back of what the criminologist just said there about the changing nature of the crime, daylight, on the street, brutal, is that still the typical Ghanaian criminal? Or there's something else at play that is foreign?
Well, there is something, if you ask me, looks more like something at play that is foreign. And I would say this because at least I know in the past, a certain crime pattern, we started seeing a certain pattern where, what's the name? Homeowners, especially women, single women or just women alone at home, were pounced upon and they were robbed. And one of the mechanisms to intimidate them into submission was rape. I'm sure we discussed that.
Yeah.
And eventually when the then CID, Mami Atiwa and the people, they reported back to us. When these people were, the kingpins were arrested, they realized that they were coming from neighboring Nigeria.
Yeah, I remember that.
You remember that?
I remember that.
So we discussed it at 2019 or so 2020. Yeah. Right. And so if you look at this, the pattern we are seeing today, I will tell you it's a bit alien because the typical Ghanaian, armed robbers, even the Atais had their own way. How many people did Atai kill? I don't know, but eventually he got arrested.
They were more armed burglars, break your home.
Right. Have more hammer, chisel it down. But today these are people who come in, and so we haven't been able to probably keep a tap on who is coming in. And when did the jailbreak happen in Nigeria? We raised issues about, some of these people who can easily come in if they have any ID card, because we have porous borders. And so this is not to make excuse for what is going on, because the truth is that until the police comes up with some better information regarding who these criminals are, then we will continue to probably analyze it and, put them in certain perspective that probably scientifically you might not be able to prove it. But in terms of the crime pattern, I would say that it's a bit alien to us. If it is not alien, then you are talking about organized crime, where you have the Atais who had people they trained to go out there and rob. But if it's just the petty criminals who come in, they will wait for you at home. When you come in, they put a gun at you and take your car or take your handbag and they run. But these are people who go to, you said you grew up in the in the Jamestown area where the thing took place. And that place is notorious for lynching people. Yeah. If you are caught, you are killed. And so as far as I'm concerned,
either they don't come from this part and so they don't know about the reputation.
Exactly.
And so they just do.
Yes, I'm sure they didn't know, because any Ghanaian who, especially if you have knowledge of our coastal belt,
there are some places.
Then you can't miss that area, because if you try, they would kill you.
Yeah. Anyway, it raises a lot of questions, but I need to say this. I believe in the police service. If they've shown in the past that when they want to do it, they do it.
With the right officers.
When they want to do it, they do it. And they are celebrated across the continent. When they go on peacekeeping missions, they excel. And so we have a fine police service, fine policemen and women who can do the job. And I believe that, as we've discussed on the show, we have to equip them. But they need to be motivated. The motivation is not just about salary. It's about everything else that a police officer will require to do his work. And with that faith, they can really do this job. And so let's give them that faith. Let's repose in them that confidence and expect that they will deliver on this. I've heard the IGP. I believe he means well. And I hope that it's just in our interest that they succeed. And so we wish they do in these matters, so we all can be sleep peacefully. They do some brilliant work when we are asleep, and so they should keep doing it. But of course, when there are points where we have to let you, we will. Enjoy the rest of your evening. We hope that we all arrive safe in our homes and return, as I say, God's protection.
Yes.
Enjoy the rest of your evening.